that we can speak on their behalf. And so this is the really non-election year. This is a good time from here on in. Everybody would know this is the time to re-register. I'm going to go re-register, or I'm just going to, if they don't re-register, they're going to be in their own respective districts.
Thank you. Floor recognizes Conrad Stewart.
Mr. Speaker, Secretary, members, when we look at the way this is going to be set up, yeah, there is some chance that some of your voters might go someplace else. And again, there's some people that might come on into the district. They might think you're doing a good job and come on to the district and vote for you. But they make that decision a whole year ahead. And so a lot of the politics that gets played, because crows know how to make a loophole. And when they see these loopholes, they establish these loopholes, and then they run with it, and then they don't ever tell these folks that, shoot, you can't leave for 4 years. Whereas in this situation here, we're utilizing this off year, so in that way the Secretary's office can build the books up and be ready for these elections. I think this is only the first step to a good accountable system and transparent system, because right now these hand tallied votes need to change too. I think we're going to have to start looking at establishing these machine ballot votes. Then there's your absentee voting. There's all these issues that are there that are still reserved areas in the election ordinance. And this is only one step towards transparency. We always talk about transparency and how we want to better the system. This is one of them. And that way, when you look at prior to these elections, there's always this big move where a lot of people, they make moves and they move into districts, and now you got a whole bunch of people in your districts that overwhelm the original members of that district, and it makes it harder for even you. Think about it. When there's only about maybe a third or half of that voter list that's actually living in the district really cares about that district, but you got all these others that are living there, and you don't even know who they are. We look through them. I'm the same way. I look at them and I'm like, who's this person? I never knew who this. I don't know who some of these people are. But then that adds up on your petition when you have to go on and get your numbers and your petition to set up a bill or something. And yet these people aren't even involved in your day-to-day district meetings or any of the decision making that has to be made. So this way you have people that really want to move to a district without any behind the scenes agenda. So they're moving because they want to be there. And not just because so and so's running or that kind of thing. And then that way we can go ahead and allow the council and district records office to clean everything up, get everything ready, and then the next election, next year is an election, and then the year after that's the election for executive, and then the year after that would be another off year, and then so forth. So I think that this is done well. There's a lot of people that have a lot of complaints, and they see it. They come in here and they say, how come you guys can't do something about this? This is a big issue. So I believe this is a solution.
Thank you, CJ. Floor recognizes Secretary Gilbert.
Thank you, Speaker, members of the body. Executive Legal, can you register? Then you could just stay there. If you want to stay at your districts. They have to re-register during that time. Some of you hold district meetings. Only the people that are living in that district in that district grew up there, whatever, show up to those meetings. Then what you go register, do sign. And you could have to go because they care for that district and they show up to those meetings. We experienced Pego, even from the previous term I had. There was just basically mighty few Igostagada, a Kolago Nui to those meetings. And you could have, they care about what's happening in that district of Bahu Lagun, Kunkolu, of Bazak Bilek, Bam Sap, the Kolun Bad Kukodare, who was sick, Bakajistik, and Coke, and Karagoe, Hina, Na Judicial Committee, Virago, Konhuigina, him, Hina, Speaker Dragon Spirit, Kijij, and Makugaj, as far as this, him, Kukani, who can be proponent, Kirigina, because Mazab is Hodum, na dugi example good fight. While I smooth it up, won't vote Kijay side much, even because Bob Bullish, that's where he's from, and he's a way to call it. Also, and that's where Mazab's now Bob Bullish, he's in charge of it. And you could ask him, so Taka, you could say, what you ask? Oh.
Thank you. Floor recognizes Bryson Rogers.
Thank you, Chairman. Again, when I'm a proponent of this, that this will kind of help out that office. We can, everybody in here knows a woman that's been married more than once, and some of these women they go use their maiden name or their ex's last name. They go through a lot of problems with that too, again, so that would help them out. Well, then, I think that, maybe if they are gonna re-register, maybe they can ask for their IDs, because some of these people that had those registration forms were filling them out for these people and then forging their names and turning them in, and some people were registered at another district without them even knowing. And just so these people can get some votes, they start registering different people, and again, maybe they need to use IDs too, or something small to bring them in and actually know who that person is.
Cody, that's why we put in there that they have to register and deliver that registration card in person. Floor recognizes Duke.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, Secretary, and yes, it is in there. We addressed that day would start. They'll have this ample time to register in person now, instead of us going and getting their registration and then bringing them in. So we addressed that problem, and it's in here in the bill, the proposed legislation. And then Senator Stewart brought out a point, and this actually happened to my wife. Remember the primaries of the positive change in the winning ticket campaign in the primaries. Remember that where we need those machines now, because we waited until 6:30, and now I'm coming to say this. I believe this is germane, something that pertains to this election ordinance, Mr. Speaker. But we got to change that, because you guys live here. You guys live in Las Vegas. Well, it's not that far. It's 75 miles. And this actually happened to my wife. When about 6:30, when the results weren't the following morning, 6:30 a.m. in the morning, my wife left. And then on Old 87, where you turn into the Prior Creek Road there, on Old 87, she had a passenger. At the last minute, a passenger wanted to go home, so she rode with my wife. My wife fell asleep on that road. If she didn't have that passenger, she would have wrecked. That's why we need those machines. That's for safety reasons. Aqua, well, the big guys stayed here until 3 that following day until we heard the results. So it's the safety and the danger to make these changes. Even look at the national level, look at the state level. If it pertains to human resources, safety, they have to do something about it. They have to pass legislation. And that's something that we do really need to change.
Thank you. Any more questions, comments, debate? Okay, floor recognizes Bill Watt. Did you have a comment to make?
Mr. Speaker, just at the appropriate time, I wanted to address, at the appropriate time was hoping to be able to address this additional change that Margaret recommended, I think Jay agrees with, and that we passed out just a moment ago. And I can explain the whole purpose behind the October 1st, whenever that's appropriate.
Okay, that would probably be right now. At this time, floor is open for amendments, and we do have a substitute version which was handed out. And Bill, would you approach the bench and go ahead and proceed in reading the proposed amendments?
Yes, Mr. Speaker. You'll see this blue line, and then we passed out one additional page. That has not been reviewed by the committee, so I will just review the things that the committee talked about. First, in the 1, 2, 3, 4, fourth whereas, just some clean up language in terms of the need for this amendment. And then starting on the top of page 2, this, just to be absolutely clear, we reprinted the entire Article 2, Section 2. So this reads now that Section 3 of this act is that Article 3, Section 2 of the election ordinance is amended to read as follows. In the heading, we reinserted the word registration. In blue there you'll see. In Article 2, Section 2, Paragraph 1 made some typographical error corrections, and as discussed a moment ago, we added the requirement that the registration forms must be submitted in person by the voter to the tribal secretary's office. So the voter has to be there in person, but the secretary does not have to be there in person. In paragraph 2, nothing there intended to be any major changes, but just to clean it up, we deleted C Appendix A, since there never was an Appendix A attached to the Act, and extended the time prior to the primary or the general when registration closes, so that they can organize the books and get the rolls out to each of the districts. So that will now be 10 days prior to the election rather than 5 days. We added the word business days, even though that's defined in the ordinance. Unless it says otherwise, it means business days, but this will make it just absolutely clear. The second sentence reads, registration forms may be completed at any time up to 10 business days before an election to permit the registration list to be printed and distributed to the polling places. As you see there, it says registration shall resume on election day, so that people can still register at the polls on election day. In paragraph 3, this was originally not included in the act, but to just have all of Article 2, Section 2 in one place, so that voters can read this one amendment and see what it is. We reinserted item 3 for the registration list, and again added that the registration would close 10 business days before the election to permit the registration list to be printed and distributed to the polling places, and added the clarifier of 7 business days to give notice if somebody's registration is rejected. Finally, in paragraph 4, beginning with the second sentence, we change to read, a change in district registration form must be submitted, again, in person by the voter to the tribal secretary's office. The next sentence is, changes in district registration shall be effective on the following October 1. Among the attorneys, at Margaret's suggestion, and I think with Jay's concurrence as well as my own, we're going to be suggesting that be changed, as you see in the handwritten handout that we gave you, to make sure that it's clear that it's the October 1 right after the close of the period and not October 1 of the following year. So that would read, if you accept that amendment, immediately following the end of the period. And then finally added a sentence to make sure everybody knows about this, as discussed here a moment ago. The tribal secretary shall publish notice of the times for changing district registration at least 10 days before the beginning of each period. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Need a motion to adopt the substitute?
I got a question, privilege.
Question?
On the part 2, timing of registration, I know it says for new registrants, but as you read it, I can see how people would probably take it, because it's pretty broad. It says, in order to vote in a district legislative elections, eligible tribal members must register to vote in a particular district by completing a voter registration form. Registration forms may be completed at any time up to 10 business days before an election to permit the registration list to be printed and distributed to polling places. Registration shall resume on election day, and road members who register on election day shall be entitled to vote in that election. Registration forms will be available from the tribal secretary's office. I think where it states registration, I think we need to say new registrants or new registration, because right then and there it's kind of open, it opens it up. It kind of looks like a loophole to where it says a new registrant. Maybe you're a new registrant to that district. Maybe you've never voted in Reno, and you've always been switching between Lodge Grass and Black Lodge or something, and then they might allow that. So I think it should pertain to someone who has never voted before.
Okay, I understand what you're saying. So where we have it at the title, it says new registrants. Okay, after the second sentence where it says registration forms, we'll insert new registration forms, or how would we word that, Jay? New voter registration forms. Okay. So insert after, where it says Appendix A was slashed out, right? Is that where you would insert that?
And then possibly on the next one after 10 business days, it says registration shall resume on election day. I think we should install that same language. New voter registration shall resume on election day, and enrolled members who register on election day shall be entitled to vote in that election. New voter registration form shall be available from the tribal secretary's office. And I'll make that as part of the motion.
As part of the
Motion.
As part of the substitute.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, motion by Conrad Stewart, second by Gordon Robert.
I got a question over there.
Question of privilege by Tyson Grovan.
Yeah, since it's a non-election year, does it have to be September 30th? Can we go to like November 30th or the end of the year? I mean, I just want to know why it has to be September 30th, the deadline of this year, 2014.
Because that's the season when everybody's busy and going around, everybody comes to Crow. It's kind of like during the summer, everybody comes to Crow. They're coming for jobs, whatever. Yeah, it's a busy season. And after that, if we open it too long, then people are going to forget about it, and then they're going to say, oh, I forgot to register. But what's up, Shiagash Buruku? One of the reasons is that Bill pointed out was if we leave it open too long, then there's a possibility of special elections. And special elections coming in between that time, it's going to cause confusion. But the shorter it is, the better. We didn't want it too short either, but 120 days is quite a long time. Okay, had a second on the floor, had a question by Eric Burdenground. All in favor, raise your right hands. All opposed? All abstained? Motion carried. Okay, any more amendments? Going once, going twice. Amendments closed. Moving on to second reading. You want a motion to waive second reading with amendments?
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Eric Burdenground, seconded by Carlson Goes Ahead. Moving to final roll call vote. Mr. Three Irons, you may proceed. Oh, okay. Point of order by. Okay. Okay, we'll vote on the motion to waive second reading. Moving with amendments to moving to final roll call vote. Raise your right hands. All opposed? All abstained? Motion carried, 14-0-0. Okay, now you may proceed, Mr. Thrierns.
Yeah, Black Lodge, yes. Rogers, Black Lodge, yes.
Stewart, Black Lodge, yes.
Yo, Reno's, yes.
Burden ground, yes. Reno's.
Kyle Bridge, yes. Reno.
Grow on, yes. Oscar.
Isabel. Good one, yes.
Spawner Road big one, yes.
Big Crane, Elk Creek, yes. Goes ahead, Buckwalk, yes.
Good luck, Mighty Few, yes.
Real Bird Montefiore, yes.
Old Karoshajic, yes. And the tally, Mr. Secretary.
14 yes, 0 no, 0 abstain.
14-0-0. This legislation has passed the legislative branch. Will, you have any comments?
Someday I'm going to learn how to speak Crow. On behalf of Secretary Narpray, Vice Secretary Backbone, Alpha Rosala, Laverne, and everybody over in the election staff, I want to thank you for the consideration and passage of this. It's going to make their time during the elections much smoother and a lot less, will eliminate the major source of arguments or conflict with voters wanting to change registration. So thank you very much.
Oh, yeah, great. Masha Gugi. Malo, Chua, cook. No, she likes it. No, Irish. No, Junior, she looks like a Korea. Ono sabe o Paulo, Kotoleš, Kuga. Ili biću i dalje, nije tako kuški, ljubići mač, kići samarčak. Nema zase, kaj oni u tedi, kada ima hačić, kada i kod kejč, ma zase, kuna homajs, ho. Organized Carlson Goes Ahead.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker, Secretary, members of the body, and for those that have worked on this, and real good questions, too. Your questions are very good. I get debate good issues there. Guys outside of, but you guys are doing a good job. I want to commend you for doing that, because that's you're looking out and speaking on behalf of your constituency. Emil Gitchik, those are some tough questions, even like with the other bills. Those are really good questions, the oil and gas. But it really brings out a lot of issues that it makes us think too. This is things that we need to legislation that we still need to propose and pass so that our tribe will run more better. Oh.
Thank you. Time is now 3:22. I'll make a 5-minute recess.
First macro bill. What's that? Macro, ready?
At 9 a.m. there's I believe Bryce has a committee meeting at 9 a.m. Many Arrows and Go Cattle Company. And Darren called Jake. He would like to meet with us here at 3:30. So if you guys want to listen in on the meeting, probably while we watch it, call the guy.